Hello there and welcome everybody. My name is Kit and my pronouns are they, them, and this is our second live event for National Apprenticeship Week 2021. I hope you're all staying warm and safe on this very, very sunny, well, it is quite sunny actually here in Norfolk anyway. It's quite sunny here, but very snowy, I was meant to say. And I am absolutely delighted to be joined by my colleague from NICO, Rio, who's our Suffolk Higher Education and Apprenticeships Champion. I am the Norfolk Higher Education and Apprenticeships Champion for NICO, and we're joined with a really special guest, which is Fred from Ask Apprenticeships. And Fred, she is the coordinator, I believe, for Peterborough, Cambridgeshire and Suffolk, but there's still going to be some relevance for all of us here in Norfolk too. I'm going to pass over to Fred, so I'm going to send you live, Fred, and welcome and thank you very, very much for joining us, Fred, and off you go.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Kit. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Sorry. So hello again and good afternoon. I am Fred from the AIM Group, but also part of the National Apprenticeship Service, and I run the Ask programme around Suffolk and Cambridgeshire up to Peterborough. And then I have a lovely colleague, Lily, who covers all of Norfolk. So if anybody needs any further information, do please get in touch with the NICO HE, and I'll be more than happy to help and support any of you. So today for National Apprenticeship Week, I wanted to run you through a little bit of information about apprenticeships. So I wanted to go over a little bit more in detail about apprenticeship, what they are and where to best to find them. Okay. As Kit has already mentioned, if you could please put any questions in the Q&A and then we can answer those at the end. So what is an apprenticeship? So an apprenticeship, you need to treat it like a real job, because that's pretty much what you're going to do. So with an apprenticeship, you are combining work experience and education into one big package. OK, so you'll spend 80% of the time at work, working for a real employer and doing an actual job. And then 20% of the time you'll be studying for a college or university or a training provider. So as I said, you are combining both work experience and education when you do an apprenticeship. So you'll be working for a real employer, which means that you will have a contract of employment. OK, so that includes things like salary, holiday, sick pay, time off to study. You will have lots of support and training from your employer, who will make sure that you are trained in your role, as well as lots of support from your training provider. So you'll have a tutor that will support you and guide you throughout your apprenticeship on the education side. Okay, now the minimum amount of work is usually 30 hours a week, and then you also have a drop day, as I said, where you will be doing your studying. It's really rewarding and there are some great benefits from doing an apprenticeship. However, you have to be very responsible when it comes to doing an apprenticeship, because it's like a real job. You need to treat it as such. Therefore, you need to make sure that you attend every day to work and you also attend college as well. You will have real responsibilities and you'll have to do real work. OK, so it's a little bit different from college or university. It's still a lot of work, but there are some great benefits. Some of these benefits are, so as I've already mentioned, we've got salary. So the minimum wage for an apprentice at the moment is £4.15 an hour, but that is the minimum wage. I'll let you know a secret. Majority of employers tend to pay a little bit more than that. They tend to give you a little bit of a higher sort of wage than the minimum wage. But even if you are starting at a minimum wage, you're always growing and developing. Therefore, you are building that salary up as well as that work experience. A lot of employers as well, if you work really hard and you show that you are interested in your work and you're enthusiastic in your role and work hard on both your education and your work, they are likely to give you a pay rise. So again, treat it like a real job. So employers can give you a pay rise. They don't have to wait to the end of the year to give you that. OK, so again, if you work hard, there are some great benefits from doing it. The best part of doing an apprenticeship is that more than 90% of people stay in employment at the end of their apprenticeship. So what happens is you start off as an apprentice and you work your way up, and at the end of it, they're very likely to offer you a permanent position. But even if you don't want to stay with that company and you want to move on, you will find that you're much more employable because you have all of that work experience behind you, as well as those great qualifications. When it comes to social life, you still get to have a really good social life because you meet loads of people in your employment and other apprentices from your training provider. So you get to meet loads of great people. As I said, you can get some amazing qualifications up to degree and masters, and you don't have to pay anything towards your education. So it's all funded by the government and the employer. Now, for those of you who are post 18, there are also opportunities to relocate. So some big employers may ask you to move around the UK or even abroad. Of course, if it's post 16, you may need to wait a little while, but there are some amazing opportunities. Of course, it's not an easy route to take. Apprenticeships are really hard work when you search for them, when you apply, and when you actually go through the apprenticeship. So don't necessarily think it's an easy route to pick. You can have backup plans, of course. So if you are thinking you're not sure, always have a backup plan such as college and university, especially if you're not sure exactly what you like to do. You can still fill out your UCAS application with your university choices, and then you can also apply for apprenticeships separately. That way you got both options open and you can pick and choose once you get your results. So make sure you explore both of those, okay? Now, there are lots of different apprenticeships available. So there are about 170 different sectors. That's about 150,000 job roles you can do through an apprenticeship, and more are coming out. So as time goes on, more and more are coming out. Now, because of the pandemic, I'll be really honest with everyone, for some fields, it's been a little bit difficult. So if you are looking, for example, in the travel or hospitality or retail, those fields unfortunately have been badly affected because of COVID. So at the moment, you will find that there's a shortage of those kind of apprenticeships. It's just where a lot of employers have paused the recruitment process. Okay, doesn't mean it's the end. They will come back and they will probably take on apprentices in the future. But at the moment, there isn't a huge amount of those available. But other employers have grown a little bit because of COVID, such as the pharmaceutical companies, the IT digital ones, big employers such as Amazon, for example, they're taking on 1,000 apprentices. So some employers are doing really well and they're taking on a huge amount of apprentices. So some fields have really developed because of COVID in a way, which doesn't sound great, but they have managed to grow. So definitely worth looking at and exploring what your options are. Also, because of the current situation, you will find that there are some new roles that never existed before. So again, don't be thrown off by the job title. Have a look at what they are and do the research as well, and you may find out the perfect job for you. So there are lots of different employers that provide apprenticeships, okay? So you can see some of the big ones on the screen now. These are kind of UK based and they're a little bit everywhere. Of course, there are smaller employers in sort of where you live. So in Suffolk and Norfolk, you probably find other employers and they are maybe smaller businesses. So they may not advertise on the big websites. They may only offer maybe 1 or 2 apprenticeships. So what you want to do is, if there is a particular employer you're interested in, it's definitely worth getting in touch with them. Find out when those opportunities become available, okay? Get in touch with them. Employers really like it when students get in touch with them to find out when they recruit for apprenticeships. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that very differently from university or when you apply for college, an apprenticeship doesn't have just one deadline, okay? So you will find these employers all have an opening and closing. So they can advertise anytime throughout the year, so they don't necessarily all open and close at the same time. So some of them may start really early, September, October time. Others may start a little bit later, so after Easter. So it does depend on the employer. As I said, some big employers such as Amazon, AstraZeneca, they are already advertising for those opportunities. Some employers such as the NHS, they advertise all year round. So it is definitely worth doing a little bit of research to find out when those opportunities become available. So you can get in touch with those employers directly and find out. You will find that those big employers don't provide just one type of apprenticeships. There's lots of different opportunities available. So as I said, the best thing you can do for yourself is do that research, find out what kind of opportunities they provide, because you will be surprised about all different opportunities that they have. So big employers may have lots of different departments, which will be able to offer you lots of different opportunities. And smaller businesses, they may only be able to offer you maybe one apprenticeship in the sense of one particular department. However, sometimes they may ask you to do a little bit of work around other departments as well to help out, especially if it's a really small business. So there is opportunity to learn lots of different skills. So again, research is really, really important. That way you can find the best opportunities for you. Now, these are the levels of apprenticeship, okay? So you have level 2, which is equivalent to GCSEs. It's exactly equivalent to 5 GCSEs, including maths and English at a grade 4 and above. Then you have level 3 apprenticeship, which is equivalent to 2 A levels of BTECs. You got level 4, which is a higher apprenticeship, which is equivalent to a foundation degree, national diploma, or level 4 MVQ. Then you got 5 and 6, which are degree, and level 7, which are masters. On top of those great qualifications, you will also be building a lot of skills, knowledge and behaviour in the actual workplace. So as I said, it's a little bit different from when you're looking at university, because with university you have a subject, you study that subject full time, and then at the end you come out and you can do lots of different jobs. With an apprenticeship, you're focusing very much on that role, so you'll be a specialist in that particular role. And once you start working full-time in that role, you find it much more comfortable because you already know how it all works, because you've already got lots of work experience. So it's a little bit different. However, degree apprenticeship, you will still have to attend university, so it does you still have that element of attending university, which is absolutely great. As I said to you, if you're not sure, it's definitely worth keeping both options open, so you can still fill out your UCAS application with your 5 universities and the courses that you would like to do, and then apply for apprenticeships separately. You can apply for as many apprenticeships as you want, and it won't affect your UCAS application. Then once you get those results and you start to get those offers, you can pick and choose. So definitely worth keeping all the options available to you. So some of you may want to look, so depending where you are at the moment, you may want to sort of look at a higher level. Make sure that if you have, for example, post 16, so if you are finishing year 11 at the moment, you're probably looking at level 2s or level 3s, and if you are doing your A levels, you're probably looking at either level 3s or level 4s. It's okay to start from a slightly lower level, because don't forget, you're not repeating, you are building that work experience, okay, which you probably need in order to progress. So as I said, 20% of the time you will be studying. Now, there are different delivery models when it comes to the studying part, so you don't get to pick this bit. And this is why I really stress you must do your UCAS application with your universities, because you don't get to choose which university you go to when it comes to higher end degree apprenticeship, and either when it comes to college, to be fair. So any level of apprenticeship that you do, you don't get to choose who your training provider is going to be. So when you apply for an apprenticeship, you apply to that employer, and they will have connections with the training provider. So they will tell you who is going to teach you in that kind of sense. So there are different delivery models available. You have the workplace learning, which is where you'll have a tutor that comes into the work once a week, and you'll sit together and you do the studying together. You got classroom learning, which is where sort of big employers often take on a big cohort of apprentices. So what they do is they have built an area where all the apprentices study together. So once a week they'll get together and they have a building just to study. Okay, so you'll be studying and working with lots of other apprentices. Then there's the classic attending college or university. So again, you'll have a drop day where you'll have to attend college or university. Remember, you'll have to make your own way there. So it's quite important you take that into consideration. And also with degree apprenticeship, if the university is a little bit far, what will happen is you'll have a 6-week block period where you go to university for 6 weeks, and then the rest of the year you will be working and doing online assessments. Okay, so it does depend, and that information you can find through the employer that will give you the information for that training provider, okay? And of course, at the moment, there's a lot of online learning, so very similar to what we are doing today. You'll be doing sort of Teams, Zoom, all of these different platforms where they use at the moment to do live lessons, and you will also have a tutor that will support you, as I said, every day. So if you do need additional support, they are there to help you, so do speak up, okay? Now, higher end degree apprenticeship, I've already mentioned quite a bit about it, but just so you are aware, higher end degree apprenticeships are really great. They're becoming really popular and they are amazing. So a lot of universities are now providing these. So a lot of great top universities are now doing higher end degree apprenticeships. So you will still be working full-time and studying part-time. You still get lots of work experience in the field that you're interested in, and you'll also be studying for a degree, which is absolutely amazing. Now, the difference is it does take a little bit longer, so it can take between 4 to 6 years to complete. Okay, so it does take longer because you are working full-time and studying part-time. So bear that in mind. And also, the other difference with the higher end degree apprenticeship from a full-time for a full-time degree is that with the higher end degree apprenticeship, you do not apply for student finance loan or a maintenance loan. Okay, so you won't have to pay any debts, which is absolutely amazing. So it's all funded by the government and the employer. But you will have to live with the salary that you earn from your apprenticeship. So if you don't earn a huge amount to begin with, you may not be able to relocate quite that far. So do bear that in mind. Differently from university, where they offer you a place to live, with apprenticeships, you probably have to find your own placement to live, and you'll have to pay for those bills on top of that as well. So do bear that in mind when you're doing your research. So as I said, it's a little bit different. You have to be very responsible when it comes to an apprenticeship because you're working, but also all these other factors to consider, like location, traveling, logistics, where you're going to live, how you're going to support yourself. So those are really important because you won't get paid any extra if you don't live at home, okay, or for commuting. So do bear that in mind when looking at apprenticeships. So just a few other tips. There isn't one deadline. As I said, employers advertise all the time, so be ready as early as possible and do your research as early as possible so you can find out when those opportunities come up, okay? You will also find that they advertise lots of different places. So I'll show you today the government website, but of course you can find apprenticeships in all sorts of different areas. And sometimes you need to think a little bit outside of the box to find them as well. So do make sure you do plenty of research. The entry requirements are all different, so sometimes they may just ask you for GCSEs, depending what kind of level you're doing. They may just ask you for GCSEs, potentially A levels. You can also get UCAS points with an apprenticeship as well. So if you're doing a level 3 or level 4, you will get UCAS points to go to full-time university as well. So make sure you look at that. Entry requirements do differ depending on the role and the employer, okay? And the application process does vary. So again, every employer has a different recruitment process. Some of them may have a very long, where you start with the application, you send your CV, and then you have an assessment day, you have an interview, then a second interview. So it's quite a long process. Others, you may just apply and go for an interview. So it does depend. What you can do is go onto that employer's website and go down the careers page. Often enough, they will have the recruitment process. So that way, you know how it all works, and it's just better for yourself to be prepared. Okay, so have a look at that. As I said, research is really key here. Now, I wanted to show you, I did a little bit of research earlier. Now, this is based on sort of central Suffolk, so it may cover a little bit to Norfolk. However, it's mainly sort of Suffolk based. So I do apologise for those of you up in Norfolk. This does differ depending where you are, changes all the time. But if we were looking, for example, this is Bury St Edmunds, okay, 5 mile radius. From Bury St Edmunds, there's only 4 vacancies. And then the further away you go, as you can see, that does tend to grow. Now, big cities tend to have probably more apprenticeships. So if you live somewhere a little bit rural, definitely worth maybe looking at sort of a bigger city. So if you are based in Norfolk, probably Norwich, they have some amazing apprenticeships over there. And you know, those of you in Suffolk, probably looking at Bury St Edmunds, possibly Cambridge, which is the other side, depending where you are in Suffolk, or Ipswich as well. So it does depend. Those ones tend to have a lot more apprenticeships. However, there are also some apprenticeships available everywhere, maybe a bit more rural. The thing that you really must remember is that you will have to make your way there every day and back. So don't pick anywhere that is too far or too difficult for you to get to. So if you have to get 2 buses a day, that might be a bit too much on top of working and studying. So make sure you do bear that in mind. But of course, the further away you go, the more opportunities are available. Don't forget, as I've already stressed several times, is that if you do travel quite far and you commute quite far, you will have to pay for your own travel arrangements. So whether you're putting petrol in the car, whether you're getting that train or that bus, you will have to pay for that yourself, and you won't get any extra. So again, something to bear in mind. Now, I wanted to give you a couple of examples of what is available in the area. So again, I'm mainly aiming at Suffolk here, but of course you'll find lots of great opportunities in Norfolk as well. So I picked a couple of different levels here for you. So you've got some level 2s, some level 3s, 4, and even degree. As you can see, the closing date changes and it can be any time throughout the year. So they close quite soon, these ones. Some of them may start quite early, so halfway through your year. Some of them may start a little bit later, like such as September. So you are looking to start in September, whether you are in year 11 or year 13, okay? You probably won't be able to start any earlier than that, possibly the summer. But don't forget, guys, you cannot drop out from where you are at the moment. So you must finish what you're doing now, get those results, and then you can start the apprenticeship. As you can see, the salary does change a lot as well. We got a level 2, which is quite good salary, and then we got a level 3, which is less if you look at it. The reason why that is because it depends on the role that you're doing and the amount of responsibility that is involved in that role. Okay, so I guess in this case, a support worker has a lot of responsibility, therefore it's a little bit higher, but it also depends on the employer. Possibly this employer feels a bit more generous compared to the other one. So it does depend on that employer and the kind of role that you're doing. So it's not necessarily to do with the level of apprenticeship. Now, the other one I wanted to highlight is Amazon. As I've already mentioned a couple of times, they're hiring quite a lot of people and they are located a little bit everywhere, not just London. I found some apprenticeships around sort of South Suffolk, sort of border with Cambridge. So if some of you are happy to commute for £30,000 a year, that's not bad. And they do degree apprenticeships in lots of different areas, not just business. They got IT, software, lots of different things, like really worth having a look at those as well. But of course, there's lots of great employers in Cambridge and Suffolk and Norfolk. So have a look at those. Opportunities come out all the time. So again, research and keep an eye on these things all the time. The other one I wanted you to notice very quickly is the one that says the sort of annual salary. It can vary between 13 to 17. So you may start off with the salary like a 13,000, and then as you progress during your apprenticeship, it can grow. Your salary can grow. So as I said to you earlier, if you work hard, you're more likely to get those pay rises as well, which is always good. So how can you tell if it's a good apprenticeship? So we already talked about salary. It's really important that you look at salary because that will make you more mobile, more able to move around and relocate. So it's always a really good positive thing to look at. Also, you want to really see what happens at the end of your apprenticeship. Will you be given a permanent role? Will they put you up a higher apprenticeship? What's going to happen? Of course, you need to look at that information because that makes the apprenticeship more attractive, especially if they're offering you a permanent position at the end or a higher apprenticeship. Definitely worth looking at that. Also, it's important to look at the aspect of what's going to happen during the apprenticeship. Is it quite flexible? Do you learn lots of different things all the time? You don't want something that bores you very quickly. So you want to make sure that you learn lots of skills all the time as well. So make sure that that role is varied. Also, the training provider. So look at that. As I said to you, you can't unfortunately choose who your training provider is going to be. However, you can look on the Ofsted because they all have ratings as well. So you can have a look and see whether that training provider is suitable for you and whether you would enjoy it. OK, because that 20% is just as important as the 80% I talked about. And of course, the other thing that makes a good apprenticeship would be the progression. OK, so as long as you're progressing, and growing, that will make the apprenticeship a lot more attractive and, you know, make you grow as well, because that's the whole point of an apprenticeship. So again, just a few other tips. The jobs are live, so they come in, they come out all the time. So make sure you keep an eye out on those. Lots of different websites. At the moment, I would suggest everybody to register onto as many websites as you can and have a look as many things as you can. Remember, you can always opt out at the end once you've secured it. But for the time being, have a look at lots of different employers. Also, new things get added throughout the year. So don't just look now because it's apprenticeship week. Lots of things come out all the time, and apply for as many as you can. As I said, you don't have to limit yourself on how many you apply for. With apprenticeships, you can apply for as many apprenticeships as you want, and you can also apply for UCAS as well for those universities and college on top of that as well. So you can have lots of options available. It's better to have lots of options than too few. It's better to choose and be picky rather than ending up just with one thing or sort of rushing around to try and find something else, you see. So apply for as many as you can. If you find something that you like, then go for it. So the information that I have found, those examples I showed you, they come from the government website, which is a great starting point for everybody. So if you want, all you have to do is type in into Google, find an apprenticeship, and it's gov.uk. Okay, so that one is a really good website. A lot of employers advertise on there. Of course, not everybody, but a good amount of employers advertise, and you can find apprenticeships throughout the UK. What you can do is do your search and you can apply directly on the website. You can also set up alerts, so you can do a search and you can set up alerts so that way they can email you when something new becomes available, so you don't have to constantly search. The other thing, again, I can't stress enough, make sure you contact those companies directly. If you do find an employer that you like, then go for it. Get in touch with them directly. They all have websites, especially at the moment, and they all can read emails. So send them an email. If you can't find the information, then contact them directly. Also, because of COVID, a lot of employers are advertising on social media. So what you can do is you can follow them on social media as well, just to help you, because they advertise a lot there as well. So you can find a lot of information if you follow them on social media. Also, tell everybody you're looking for an apprenticeship. You never know, through friends and family, the more people they know, the more likely to talk. And then, you know, there may be somebody that you know, a friend of a friend of a friend that is looking for an apprentice just like you. So talk to them. Also, the vacancy snapshot, which is from Amazing Apprenticeship website, has a lot of different great employers where you can search how their recruitment process works. So you can click on them and find out. As I mentioned to you already, they're all different. They all have different recruitment processes, so you want to find out how it really you can stand out compared to everybody else. Okay, so that information is on the amazingapprenticeships.com, which is the website just at the top on the slide showing right now. There are some resources for you students. There's also resources for parents, such as these, which are really popular. So that's why I wanted to enhance them a little bit. So if your parents want to help, of course, there's lots of resources that they can help with, lots of tips as well. So amazingapprenticeships.com has resources for both you and your parents, and the monthly pack for parents also comes in 7 different languages. So if, like me, your mum or dad doesn't speak very good English, then at least it comes in lots of different languages to help them a little bit more, so they can be of support to you as well. But lots of resources and tips for you students as well, both post 16 and post 18 students. Okay, so that's a little bit of social media stuff for you. I'm sure you're really great at it. I'm not so great, but please do follow all of these because it gives you lots of options. So lots of different things come up all the time, especially for National Apprenticeship Week, lots of news and things. So do follow that on social media. And there's also the National Careers Service, which is also great. That gives you lots of tips on your CV, application and interview. So that's another good one, sort of careers. The National Careers Service. Okay, so thank you all so much for listening. I don't know if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. So thank you all so much for listening. I hope that was useful, and if anybody needs any help, again, if you contact your NICO higher education champions, they can get in touch with me or with Lily. So if you come from Norfolk, Lily will be helping you. If you come from Suffolk, I'll be helping you. And more than happy to help anybody. So if you need any additional support, just get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. That was absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
We do have, there is one question at the very least in the chat. So so now is the opportunity for you to put some questions in there if you haven't done so already. But we have one to go to fill our 20-second delay with Fred. So this question says, if you were to relocate somewhere else in the country, like you found the apprenticeship you're looking for, but it's in a different area of the country, and you would like to get some help from the apprenticeship scheme, like for accommodation finder, does that exist at all? Is there any situation where you might be able to get any particular funding for accommodation finance if you did have to move away from home?
That's a good question. However, no, it's very different from university. So bit of a tricky one. Some employers, if they are a big employer, they may sometimes be able to offer you accommodation or, potentially help you with accommodation. However, it's very different from university, so they don't necessarily, as I said, it's like applying for a real job, so they wouldn't necessarily have a place where they put all their apprentices, because they may only take a few or even one, so they would expect you to sort of rely on yourself with what you earn from that particular salary. So there isn't any additional sort of thing you can do. So unfortunately, you won't be able to, as I've already said, you won't be able to apply for a maintenance loan or a grant or anything like that. So you will have to live with the salary that you earn. They may be able to sort of suggest where you can find some sort of accommodation, but they wouldn't necessarily take that as a responsibility. It would have to be your responsibility. And that's why I said relocation is a bit of a tricky one, because if it's through the employer, so if you already started an apprenticeship and the employee asks you to relocate, then of course they're going to help you with the accommodation and everything, though you may still have to foot the bill, just so you are aware. However, if you are choosing to relocate, then that's when it gets tricky, because the employer will expect you to have that sorted for yourself, I'm afraid. So as I said, it's a lot of work, but yeah, it depends. So if you're happy to commute, if you live somewhere that it's quite easy to commute, then I'll probably suggest to do that to begin with, and maybe in the future, once you have a higher salary, potentially relocate.
Okay.
I hope that's helped. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've heard that it can happen, but it's exceptionally rare that
yes.
you get some support for that kind of stuff. I think I've only ever come across one where they've said, because of the way it's different, but admittedly they were structured around the UCAS system. So you applied for their apprenticeship through the UCAS system, and that is very rare. I know that most of them, as you've already said, Fred, and just to clarify for everybody, you go through the employer, as Fred has already said. And this was our PwC, I think they're called. I don't know if that rings a bell. So yeah. PwC said on a couple of their apprenticeships, because they do it in the block 80-20 split, and they have to go to a university for a whole term or a whole semester, then they do get accommodation. But that is not the norm. That's the exception. It's the norm, what Fred said. So just to in case they've heard that. If they've heard that, then it's not the usual.
It's not. No, I mean, to be honest with you, I've heard of an employer which so an engineering, I don't know if anybody's interested in doing engineering, but maybe a few engineering companies, the big ones, okay, I'm not going to name names just in case I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've heard that they have built like a hose, as you would call it, for university, but not everybody can sort of, majority of employers don't have that kind of money to be able to support you that way. As I said, they may be able to suggest, they may be able to advise, especially if you're new to the area, but they wouldn't be able to take that on as a responsibility. It would have to be your responsibility. So yeah, it's very different. Yeah. Thanks, did we have any other questions? Sorry.
There's no more questions at the moment. I'm gonna stall for a tiny bit because we've got plenty of time, but so please, if there are any more questions, there's the only silly question is the one that's never asked. Okay, that's what I used to say as a teacher. So one thing I will ask is how common, because one of the things that we've been talking to our students with Nico is that we found that actually, and you did already allude to this in the presentation, is that there are quite a few students out there who seem to think that because I'm doing a level 3 qualification, like ACE, for example, an A level or a BTEC, or I can only therefore apply for a level 4 or a level 6 apprenticeship. I couldn't, but how common is it? Because it's actually a very good idea that they can and they should look at level 2 and level 3 apprenticeships, because they might be the right fit for them. So is there any encouragement you can give to get to get rid of this mindset that, oh, you know, I've got a level 3 code, why would I do a level 2? So you already alluded to this, but can you give some reasons why you might, quote unquote, step down to a level 2 before you push on? What would you say to those?
Thank you. That's a really good question, actually. So at the moment you're in full-time education, you have no work experience whatsoever, especially in that role that you want to do. So the first thing you need to remember is that when you apply for an apprenticeship, as I've already mentioned, it's very different from college or uni, because what you're doing is you're actually studying a particular role rather than a subject. So that's the first thing. Also, you're not technically stepping down, because, as I said, you're building that work experience. Now, depending what you want to do, and that's why I said some of you may look at sort of doing either the same level or above. However, most people, both post 16 and especially the post 18 students, tend to look at a level 3. Level 3 is really good to start with, because yes, it is equivalent to A levels, but don't forget you are getting a completely new qualification because you are doing a job role. Also, on top of that, it's a really good step to then grow. Okay, when you go straight onto a level 4, it can be really difficult. You need to have a lot of A levels in particular fields often enough. You really need to have some kind of UCAS points as well. Also, with a level 4, don't forget you are going from full-time education to a level 4 apprenticeship, where you're going to be working probably about 37 hours a week, plus studying for a degree on top of that. So it's a lot of work, and it's completely different from what you've been doing so far. So what you will end up is that you will end up burning candle at both ends, and then you will just stress out and end up quitting early. And as I said to you, if you quit, then you will come out with no qualification. Just like university, if you quit halfway through, you will come out with no qualifications. Now, I'll tell you a little story. My sister, so we're from Cambridge, and she studied A-level photography. Okay, so she did A level at sixth form, and she did a couple of other A levels. Okay, when she finished, so when she finished college, she decided that she didn't want to go to university. She wanted to do an apprenticeship. Now, an apprenticeship in photography is one of the hardest ones to find, even today. Okay, so what she did was she went to work for the hospital. So Addenbrooke's Hospital, I don't know if anybody knows that hospital, is massive. Addenbrooke's Hospital, for the reprographics department. She did a year there as a level 3. Even though she already had A level in photography, she did reprographics at a level 3. And then at the end of that, she was offered a job at Cambridge University, where she accepted, of course, and she worked in the photography department. And they put her up to do a degree. So now she has a level 6 degree in photography plus videography, and she works for Cambridge University. So I think she did pretty well there. So, you know, sometimes you have to, as I said, think a little bit outside the box to gain that work experience. It's probably the best thing you can do to yourself to then grow and develop. There isn't a time, okay? There isn't a time limit. I've met people that started apprenticeships at the age of 50. I've met people that started university at the age of 50. It doesn't mean that they're late. It's just everybody has different times. So you're not actually wasting any time here. You are building yourself, and you're investing time in yourself to learn more things and more skills to make yourself get to that career that you want. Okay, so don't ever think that you're taking a step back. You're always learning new things all the time. Thank you so much. That was a brilliant question.
Yeah, that's and yeah, I definitely echo that. I mean, I'm approaching my 40s now, and my career progression has definitely not been linear, and I've taken step backs to go step forward. So don't, yeah, so do listen to adults and their different experiences, and maybe your peers and things like that, because there may be alternative ways, and it's all really about keeping different pathways and doors open, and never think that you always have to stay on one pathway either. Just like as Fred was saying with her sister, you know, it's and one of the things that people like us, you know, Fred and Rio and myself like say all the time, is that it's actually very, very rare now that people stay in this same career or the same trajectory for their entire life. I mean, I've had 2 career changes already, and it's not a sign of weakness. It's just I just kind of like that diversity, and so that's a very, very good answer there. We haven't had any fresh new questions, Fred. So I guess there's I don't have any ideas anymore. I think we've run dry. You've done a great job there. So I think we can end it now. So There you go. I've stalled enough, and I think everyone's had plenty of enough time to get their questions in. So thank you very, very much for joining us, and we hope to see you again later on this week. Stay safe in the snow, have loads of fun, and we'll see you soon.